But ultimately, the drug the Founding Fathers had the most success with wasn't hemp. It was tobacco.
We know now that tobacco is like the most addictive drug there is. And we got England hooked on it, and they loved it, and they couldn't have enough. 2 or 3 times as much money could be made by growing tobacco. So tobacco was the #1 crop in early America, and really, drugs started our country.
It's not about justice, it's not about agenda, it's not about mobilizing people, it's about dialing for corporate dollars. These two parties have sold the U.S. government and the American people to the highest bidders.
My hot button today, first of all, please, every time I do this, I have to give this disclaimer because people send me email. Sometimes it's hate mail. First of all, I don't use medical marijuana. I don't use any marijuana. I personally don't like marijuana. I don't. You know, it kind of makes me feel lethargic. I'm not a stoner, but I know many. I don't care if you or anyone else uses marijuana. And you know what? I'm actually pretty conservative in most areas, but it just doesn't seem to bother me. And I want to ask kind of your opinion on this. First of all, what is going on in our state and around the country? It's reefer madness. Let's concentrate on the real issues like the economy, jobs, and human rights. Oh, no. But there are some of you who argue this is a slippery slope, and it's really important. This medical marijuana thing will just lead to total legalization. Okay, so what? It will reduce loads on law enforcement, quash illegal drug cartels, it'll increase tax revenue and increase jobs. So legalize it. Let's get real. You know that guy in Highlands Ranch who bragged about having a grow house and he was going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars? He was on local TV news. Well, guess what? He faces 10 years to life in prison. Are you kidding? Is this what we want? Is this really safer, having this guy in jail? Do you feel safe because of that? And we recently covered a news story where a dog ingested some marijuana edibles, and he got stoned. The owner was mortified and spent hundreds of dollars at a vet. She could have saved a ton of money just going to Domino's Pizza and let him sleep it off. I think we have to prioritize our state and our priorities in the state. It's in trouble financially. We need jobs and industry. How about you lawmakers start spending as much time on those things as you do on medical marijuana? So here's my purple people meter question today. Should pot just be legalized? Now, I'm not saying, do you want to use it? I'm just asking, should we just legalize the whole thing? Green is yes. Red is no. Go to martino.tv and you can vote. By the way, this is a dynamic poll live, so it's back and forth, and it's a live poll. So martino.tv, and that's the question, should it just be legalized? I'm not talking about medical marijuana. I'm talking about marijuana in general. I think they're going to vote on that in California. Josh Stanley is with me. Now, Josh owns a dispensary, a very large dispensary, right?
That's right. We own 4 dispensaries throughout the state.
Now, you also are with a group, Dispensary Owners Coalition. You guys have all gotten together.
Yeah, that's correct. Basically what we've done is we've tried to give a hand in passing 1284 and making it as responsible as possible. Now that the Senate has passed it, at least we do have some type of a roadmap. We have some type of a guideline. It's not perfect. We're the first to admit that. But we're making history here. Colorado is the only state to have medical marijuana in its constitution. We have this incredible precedent to set for the rest of the nation. I think we're doing that. Again, while it's not perfect, we have a lot of work to do. We feel like it's a responsible bill.
Okay, so will it put a lot of smaller dispensaries out of business? That's what I'm being told.
You know, that's what you see in a lot of the blog sites. Yeah. I think when somebody actually reads the bill, you start to understand that these outrageous fees they're really not there. It wasn't a reality. You know, Chris Romer came out and was talking about $50,000 and auditors.
But that didn't make it into the bill.
It just didn't make it into the bill.
So what are the main points of the bill then?
The main points of the bill are you know, it's a strong taxation. You know, a Department of Revenue is going to be able to put together a set of rules and regulations.
And fees?
And fees, okay. Yeah. There's going to be fees.
What about
state
growing?
Fees and local fees. Growing, you know, it's a 70-30 vertical integration model.
So you have to grow 70%?
You have to grow 70% of your own. Yes, that's true. That was something especially came out of the governor's office. It was a non-starter for
Is that
the governor.
a good thing?
Well, I'm not necessarily for that, no. But it's the first year.
Is this really, you know, and people get so shook up about this. I don't know why, and of course we'll take your phone calls at 303-MARTINO, but is this just the foot in the door approach? Do people just want to legalize it in the medical marijuana industry? Or do you want to keep it medical marijuana?
I think it's about half and half, you know. I think a lot of people look at this as a medicine. I know I certainly look at it as a medicine. I think about 50% of the people look at it as saying, hey, just legalize it already. Who cares, you know, tax it, legalize it. We're going to make a lot more money on it anyway, than even if you continue to keep it as medical marijuana.
So where do you think we're going? Do you think the House will pass this?
I do. I think it's going to the House this morning. I spoke with several of the congressmen and several of the lobbyists, and the House looks good to pass it. And we had a lot of the things in the bill that the governor said were non-starters that he would veto on. And so I feel like the governor is going to put his stamp of approval on it as well.
Is it good for Colorado, you think?
Right, yeah, it absolutely is good for Colorado. It's going to be good in the long run. Again, I can't stress enough, Tom, it's not perfect. But we have a lot of work to do on this, and this is just round one.
But will there still be people working to outlaw these things or to really get rid of them? Because that's really the motive of some lawmakers. They don't want regulation. They just want to shut them down. So they call it regulation. Others say, let's regulate. What do you think the future is?
A lot of people thought that 1284 was just an attempt to shut it down.
Right.
Shut the whole industry down.
You don't think so?
Absolutely not.
But do you think there will be future moves to shut it down is what I'm asking?
You bet. Absolutely there will be. The Attorney General, John Suthers, doesn't believe that the dispensaries are a viable alternative, although all they are is a distribution center that makes it safer, takes it out of the neighborhood so that people aren't buying it out the back door. But yeah, John Suthers or people like John Suthers will come back and they'll continually
try to shut this down. They just keep trying to shut it down.
You bet.
I want to know what you guys think. 303-MARTINO, 303-627-8466. I'll ask Josh to stick around for some phone calls. We have a quick call right now. Okay, Kim, what's happening? Kim.
Hi.
Hi, Kim. What's happening?
I just wanted to chime in on your issue about the legalization of marijuana.
What do you think about legalizing it?
I believe it should be legalized.
All right, Kim thinks it should be legalized.
I believe that the tax revenue that could come in, it could do a lot of good to the state of Colorado and to the nation wide, actually. And not just marijuana as far as medicinally, but the uses of hemp as far as hemp oil possibly being used as a biodiesel fuel or robe clothing.
Yes, Kim.
That kind of industry could bring a lot of revenue.
I appreciate the call,
a lot of
Kim.
different states.
She's saying, you know, just not just marijuana itself, but hemp and the whole plant, and just why not? We need the money.
You know what? She's absolutely right when it comes to talking about hemp. I mean, what you can grow a marijuana plant 20 foot high, this big around in 9 months, when it takes 9 years to grow that big with pine. It's a lot more sustainable. You can use every part of the plant. I think Kim's got a really good point.
We'll continue to take your calls, and we have a lot more coming up on Martino.
If you think marijuana should be legalized and taxed, you could get a chance to cast a vote for that cause in November. Signature gatherers go to work tomorrow drumming up support for the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act. If it's okayed by voters, adults could grow their own or buy marijuana from state-regulated stores.
I-73, the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act, would create the Oregon Cannabis Control Commission, which would operate similarly to the Oregon Liquor Control Commission. Madeline Martinez, a co-petitioner on the initiative, says the current system isn't working. It fosters crime.
The more sensible approach is to tax and regulate cannabis for adult use.
Sales would be taxed. Most of the proceeds would go to state programs. Felicia Heaton, News Radio 1190 KEX.
For too long in our Commonwealth and much of our nation, desperately sick people have been denied medicine that they need and that could help them. They have been denied medicine that has been proven to be safe and effective, and they have been denied based on unfounded fears, bad science, and old wives' tales. It's time for this irrational prohibition to end. Marijuana has historically been used for medicinal purposes. Up until 1937, it was the third most prescribed medication in the country. That year, based on some sensational congressional testimony and against the advice of the American Medical Association, Congress passed the Marijuana Tax Act, which essentially banned all use and possession of marijuana. At the time of that banning, there were 28 patented medicines containing cannabis available in American drugstores with a prescription from a physician. Over the years since then, there has been much anecdotal and some preclinical evidence of the profound effects of marijuana in terms of medicinal purposes.